If you would turn in your Bibles, Joshua chapter 10, Joshua chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, our foundational text for this series that we're in. Notice verse 1, now it came to pass that when Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and its king, so he had done to Ai and its king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoam, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, and Japhia, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon, saying, come up to me and help me, that we may attack Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. And therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon gathered together and went up, they and all their armies, and camped before Gibeon and made war against it. And we're speaking in this series about conquering challenging relationships. Conquering challenging relationships. It's not a matter of if you will ever experience a challenging relationship. If you are around people in general, at some point somebody is going to rub you the wrong way. Somebody is going to misunderstand your motives. Somebody is going to assign something to you that is not who you really are. And so we have relationships in the earth that are not necessarily for you. There are people that'll hate on you just because you're happy. You don't have to even do anything to people. You can just be smiling, minding your own business. And some people are against you. You've never said anything to these people. You've never met them before. And some people just meet you and they don't like you. And so you know that it's not that we are battling against flesh and blood. We are dealing with spirits. And you see, here the children of Israel were in Gibeon, and Gibeon had made a covenant with these folks, and now the kings got upset and went and got 4 other kings, and so now 5 against these folks, 5 of them banding themselves together to keep them out of their promised land. There's always an enemy that is set up to try to keep you out of the place of promise for your life. Please don't assume that because God has peace and happiness for you, that it's just going to just roll out and just come to you like ripe cherries falling off of a tree. That's not how things work in the kingdom of God. In fact, the Bible teaches in the book of Acts that you enter into the kingdom through much tribulation. Whenever you're trying to birth anything, if you try to birth a baby, it's coming in pain. If you try to birth a business, it's coming in sorrow and disappointment and betrayal sometimes. If you birth a ministry, it's going to be birthed in setback and discouragement and all kinds of things. Before anything can become great, it must overcome opposition. And there is no opportunity without opposition. Every time that God births a vision on the inside of you, every time that God gives you something that is a promise, a seed of something to unlock your destiny and take your life to the next level, there will come something to challenge it. Right when it looks like you're ready to give birth to something, here comes Slewfoot trying to make you abort the blessing. I mean, things that were promised to you, deals that were supposed to have been consummated by now, folks that were supposed to help you and promise to do this, and that this was supposed to happen and that was supposed to happen, and promotions were supposed to come, and contracts were supposed to be signed, and deals were supposed to be made, and it didn't happen, and you wonder why. It's because there are enemies. There are always enemies against anything that is good. You got to fight for stuff that's worth having. You really do. That's just the truth about it. I mean, if you're going to have a destiny, you're going to have to fight for it. If you're going to have a vision, you're going to have to fight for it. If you got a dream, you're going to have to fight for it. If it's a business, you got to fight for it. If it's a ministry, you're going to have to fight for it. If it's a marriage, you're going to have to fight for it. You have to fight the good fight of faith. It's a fight. It's a fight, folks. And listen, if you're not willing to fight, you may as well just lay down now. Because it is a fight. It is a fight. We are in the fight of our lives, but thanks be unto God who gives us the victory. I mean, when he's already let us peep the end of the story, we don't exactly know how we get to that, but he's let us peep the end of the story. You know that the story is going to end with some warm and fuzzies. You know that, it's going to be, they're going to be reunited at the end, and it feels so good. You know it's going to work out. You already know from the promise of his word, Romans 8:28, and we know, not we guess, it's not hope, it's not maybe so, and we know that all things, not just some things, but everything, even the folks who told you no, even the people that rejected you, the folks that wouldn't help you, I mean, your muscles wouldn't have gotten strengthened had they helped you. If they didn't reject you, then you would have thought that your success was based exclusively on them. God let them reject you to let you know that I am your source. I'm with you, and the destiny that I have marked out for your life. I mean, he'll have to tell you, listen, you go and you do this, and don't be afraid of their faces. God says, don't look at them, you look at me. So when you're doing your assignment, you've got to learn how to look in the right direction, because there are some enemies stacked against you. And they can come against you in seven of them. They can band and come united. 7 demons can come united, totally, a total satanic ploy. 7 is the number of completion. So that can be a total satanic plan or ploy set to keep you out of your destiny. 7 of them can come against you united, banded together. But when the power of God is destined to make you who you are, he will strengthen you through the resistance. Resistance produces strength. We call it strength training. When you're in the gym and you're pushing weights, it's resistance, but it's building muscle. It's resistance, but it's building muscle. And when the glory of God, when they discover that you cannot stop this plane that's coming down this runway because it's getting ready to be airborne. There's nothing, once it's got a certain amount of speed on it, you just got to back up out of the way. And the things that came against you united, they will start scattering in 7 different directions. They were united when they came against you, but then they will be scattered, running for their life. And if you'll hang in there, God will give you a testimony. Don't quit on him too soon because you got discouraged or because you got tired. Don't quit because you get tired. You quit because you get finished. Because there are going to be some folks that's going to make you want to cuss them out, or you will meet some of them. Some of you all have already met them several times. And you've had to, it takes everything on the inside of you. But just realize that there is something that your body will never produce until you get provoked. God's got a plan. He's got a plan. But I just want you to remember these different spirits. These are relationships that we still have to deal with today. Remember, God told the children of Israel, there were in the New Testament, see, this is Old Testament, but in the New Testament, there were 5 things, sins that kept them out of the promised land. All of those folks that died in the wilderness, 5 things kept them out: lust, idolatry, fornication, tempting Christ, and murmuring. Did you know just having a negative mouth can curse you from being able to come into what God has planned for you? You don't want people on your team talking about, well, I don't think we're going to make it. This too hard. We tired and we hungry. We didn't ask you whether you're tired or you're hungry. Are you finished? Are you finished? There are some times you got to be tired and hungry and still keep on trucking. You got to get finished. You got to get finished, because if you don't finish, you don't eat. And I'm just telling you, you got to have a motivator built in so strongly that I can't stop where I am. I'm pressing my way because I'm on my way to something, and I'm too close now. I've been through too much to quit. How many of you all feel like you've already been through enough stuff? And as much stuff as you've already fought through a whole lot of stuff. The devil has already tried to discourage you and make you abort your dream and your vision. He's let people turn their back on you, misuse you, hurt you, abuse you, abandon you, and all of that. You've come too far now to be discouraged by little stuff. petty stuff. Be aggravated by trifling folks who don't have enough going on in their own life and they want to create drama in yours. And so notice here, remember, Adonizedek means Lord of Justice. It means Lord of Justice. In other words, Adonizedek, this is the spirit of self-justification. He tries to justify whenever you do wrong. He tries to justify being mediocre. If you keep justifying something, you'll never change it. Well, you know, I was sleepy. The sun was in my eye. I didn't have enough time. You know, I'm late because of the traffic. No. When you're supposed to be somewhere on time, to get there on time is to be late. You get there ahead of time. My uncle, I had an uncle, and he said to me, he says, there's one reason that anybody's ever late. He says, you didn't start out in time. He says, don't tell me about the traffic. I had traffic. I mean, when one person is there and they came through traffic, so the only reason that you're late, because you didn't start out in time. And you know, if you really back that up, you know, it's the truth. If you justify it, you'll never correct it. Whatever you justify. And see, when you justify yourself, it means that now God cannot justify you. We become God, because God is the only God of justice. Justice can only ultimately come from God. And if we justify ourselves, now God says, okay, you're already justified, so I can't justify you. And real justification only means something in His book, not ours. It means something in His book. And then the second king is Hoham. That means Jehovah protects the multitude. Jehovah protects the multitude. You know, the Bible talks in so many instances about God being our shield, our buckler. He's our rear guard. He's with us. He's the one who's in front of us. God is the protector of the multitude. And see, Hoham is the king of Hebron. It means the seat of association. So if you put it all together, that message means Jehovah protects the multitude of association. In other words, it is saying that when we start trying to play God ourselves by protecting our own interests, you would never sleep if you stay up all night wondering who is trying to undermine you. Remember, the Lord is the one who neither slumbers nor sleeps. There's no need in both parties being up all night. I mean, if we're going to be up trying to watch over everything, that's too much going on. It's too much going on in the world for you to stay up and try to figure everything out that's going on with you, going on with your mama, going on with your daddy, your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your co-worker, your neighbor. You can't watch everything. Let God be God. Just let God be God. And so Hoham is an attempt to try to be God, because we're trying to protect everything. We're trying to play God. But when you trust God, you don't have to play God. When you trust God, you don't have to play God. Just trust Him to be God. Trust Him to be God. Touch your neighbor, says, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane. Doesn't it make you a bit agitated when you know what you're doing and somebody starts trying to direct you and tell you what you need to be doing better? Don't you want to, I mean, sometimes they might have rank and you want to say to them so badly, just stay in your lane. You have to learn how to say it up under your breath. Stay in your lane, stay in your lane. Don't come over here, don't come over here. You will be surprised how much better you feel when you learn to talk to yourself. You're not crazy when you talk to yourself. You go crazy when you fail to talk to yourself. And the crazy folks that you see talking to themselves, they waited too long. It's talking to yourself that'll keep you from going crazy. You have to say, Jesus, don't let me hit her. See, you have to have the conversation ahead of time. Because if you don't have the conversation, you are liable to snap. And when you snap and then start talking, oh, it's on then. Come on, it's reality TV time, live, bring it on now. And so you have to trust God, let God be God. And so we have to just say, God, you're God, I'm not. You forgive, you're gracious, you're merciful, and I'm just going to let you be God. But this second relationship of King Hoam is the tempting relationship that tries to make you become God over your own life. It's the same trick that the devil did with Adam and Eve in the garden. He says, God was their discernment. And so now the serpent comes and says to Eve, this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Which is discernment. God was that discernment. He says, wouldn't you like to know? He says, because then you will be like God. They were already like him, made in his image, after his likeness. They were already like him. Isn't that the trick of the devil, to make you think that you are not something already? You're already that and a bag of chips. You're already that. He deceived them into thinking that they were something. It's not what you are that stops you, it's what you think you are not. It's not what you are that hinders you, it's what you think that you are not that hinders you. It's the thinking. And so the devil asked her a question that made her question her identity. God knows that you'll be like him. Don't you want to know what he knows? If they needed God, they had unbroken relationship and fellowship with him. God would tell them, don't trust her. He was their discernment. When you have God in your life, I'm just telling you, anybody know that you've ever been and you know the Holy Spirit, that you might not have known at the time. You might have said, something told me. And in retrospect, you realize that something was the Lord, who is your discernment. So, but when we try to play God, I don't care how good you are, you will always misjudge some people. And it's a terrible thing when you misjudge them and marry them. Oh. You need a serious prayer. All kinds of deliverance and help. But this third challenging relationship is with Pyram. Pyram means a wild donkey. It means, you see what it is. It is what it is. I'm from the old school. I don't use profanity. But Pyram means a wild donkey. It means swift, something that's just really fast. And he is the king of Jarmuth, which means elevation. He's a king of Jarmuth, which means elevation. Jarmuth, when you put that together, is somebody who is quick-tempered, high-minded, and quick-tempered. This is that spirit. This is that relationship. It has a reference to being high-minded and prideful. And I want you to realize that all of life's successes come from initiating relationships with the right people and then strengthening those relationships. Just think about that for a moment. That all of life's successes come from initiating relationships with the right people and then strengthening those relationships. And your failures come from initiating relationships with the wrong people and strengthening those relationships. I know everybody right now can think of somebody that you wish you never met. I mean, people that swindle money out of you, your time, your energy, your affection, your creativity, you making special dinners and going over their house, washing their clothes. I know there's somebody that you wish that you had never, ever met because it didn't pan out. It just didn't pan out. And we thought we knew. We thought that we knew. See, this is where this is that Pyram spirit. He's swift. He's a wild donkey. He wilding out. Just wild, just free spirit. And we're seeing these spirits released in our society today. You know, just turn on the reality TV shows. You know, you see them manifested. You see them manifest just wild and high-minded. You know, think more of themselves than what they ought. Filled with all kinds of stuff. But people can usually trace their successes and their failures to relationships in their lives. You can trace your successes and your failures to relationships in your life. There are some people that you meet and they bless your life, and there are some people that you meet and you wish you didn't meet them, because they took you down a path and introduced you to stuff that got you away from who you were really called to be. May I just remind you of this: pain begins when wrong voices are given the gift of access into your life. Let me just remind you of that pain begins when wrong voices are given the gift of access into your life. Wrong voices are given the gift of access into your life. That's when pain starts coming. Wrong relationships. When the devil really wants to mess up a young woman or a young man, he sends in a contaminated, toxic relationship. Somebody that looks good on the outside, sound all smooth and everything, and then y'all on the phone for hours and hours. You hang up first. And then you get to a point in the relationship, you see them calling you and you won't even answer. You put in your contact, do not answer. You block them. You do this, you know. But may I just say this? I don't know whether some of you all have noticed this or not, but oftentimes wrong people won't leave your life voluntarily. They only leave when you go broke. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But this spirit here, I want you to see that Piram, who is from Jarmuth, that name again means elevation. He's Piram, king of Jarmuth, elevation. He's king of elevation, high-mindedness. And you know what high-mindedness, where it leads you. I want you to notice Luke chapter 12, verse 13 through 21, in the English Standard Version. It says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And then he said, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Let me tell you, this is Jesus talking now. Jesus says a person's life does not. Do you all see that? It does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. If that were the case, all rich people would be happy.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.